live.
We are live. We're doing a special elongated stream tonight. So we're gonna explain this. So for the next hour and a bit, probably closer to 2 hours, Shani and I are going to be doing the drink and draw. Then an hour after that, and then the hour after that, which is why we moved this from now to 9 o'clock. I found out UTC -0 to my time. I thought was closer to London, England, not actual UTC time. So it was like, oh, I double booked here, motherfucker.
Whoops.
Yeah.
You got a lot of energy to do a 2-part show.
Yeah. Well, I honestly, this this never feels like work to me, like ever.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like it because, number one, it's funny to watch. It's like I get like 3 categories of guests. I get the shy, intimidated, and I don't know why. I'm like, you've talked to me, 4 times now? Am I even remotely intimidating?
I don't get intimidated easily. So
Yeah.
to me, no.
Yeah. But some people, for whatever reason, it's, oh my God. I guess anyone that's going to interview them, I don't know. That's called the A. We'll just associate that with interview. So that's one. I think that's fair. Don't give myself too much credit because I had one romance writer. It's like you're like a 2.5 on the intimidating scale at best. At best. Right, at best. It's like, okay, that's fair. She's she's like a freaking badass though too. So it's like, it's fair. It's you, but still, it's fair. I can't really argue with the.
I find people that try not to be intimidating are probably hiding just how intimidating they can be.
Well,
it takes work.
Well, it takes work to be mean and scary. It takes work to be mean and scary. It's like, what am I getting out of this other than angry? Because
right. Yeah.
What am I really getting out of this? I mean, it's not something that's going to make me. It's not going to give me anything close to satisfaction. I mean, I can be nicer to women and get more pleasure out of that than any being intimidating, right?
Right.
Right. That's just me. I mean, if I have to be, like, I mean, I suppose, like, I'll stand. If it's the right situation, I'll stand up for it. Stand up for anybody.
Right. It's a superpower.
Yeah, but I don't care, right? It's just like, That's category 1. Category two, established professionals. They expect competence. That is their natural default. The way they look at it is if they're giving you the time of day, you're competent. Don't convince them otherwise.
Right.
Right. Number 3, that middle ground between beginner and that. And everybody is like, and that's where I'm at. I think I'm still in that middle ground because I haven't gotten to where I want to go yet. But and that's kind of what the summer's about. Like I've already kind of made up my mind that, like we were talking a little bit off the air. I currently have a day job that, at best, I don't fall asleep at night doing.
And that's really all we could ask for.
Yeah. It's weird when you walk in and they're trying to keep you calm. Like they're like, don't worry about it. I really don't care what happens here. Like I don't think you understand. Like I don't care. You put me in a situation where I don't have the best chance to succeed. I'm not going to worry about it. You put me in a situation where I have a good chance to succeed. I'll do better, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just here to do whatever. Like I have checked out. Like I'm not here. Like So
what's the job?
Yeah, it's just a job. That's it.
No, but what is it? What's your day job now? Your night job?
My night job at the moment is I'm working at this. I'm working at a press factory for plastic parts.
Okay.
But which. Essentially, right now, they're not giving me, like, again, not a bad company. They're not giving me anything, like, stupidly hard to do. But, okay, so I'll give you, like, an example. So I come in to do, they put me in a brand new spot I've never been at before. The guy that was previous to me is not my trainer. He doesn't tell me anything. He's done his job. It's the weekend. He doesn't want to deal with this shit. He's done. So I'm like, So I'm left to my own devices. They don't want the machine turned off under any. It's one of those places where they don't want the machine turned off under any circumstances whatsoever, which is always a bad sign to me. It's like that's a death knell usually right there in the back of my head. Because if you can't turn the machine off, that usually actually is a really poor. It's a very poor strategy from the company. I find it's usually a very poor one. But anyway, I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I mean, I saw a little bit, but I'm like, well, someone should probably show me something, right?
You'll do fine. Don't put your finger in gears.
I was deliberately bad for the first little bit until someone did help me. I was like, hey, listen, look, ladies and gentlemen, honestly, never to be fair to look bad in a situation where you can't win, because honest to God, you can't win. So don't even go. Just be like, you know what? You put me here, fix it, right?
You know what your priorities are,
Yeah. Well, I mean, mine is I get paid whether this works or it doesn't. And I mean, that's a very, that may not be the right attitude, but that's my attitude.
It's working for you. Yeah. And it's not like you really care about it. So your priority is, getting paid. Yeah. It's not like they're investing in you.
Yeah, exactly. So when I'm in that situation, I just know that, I need something to say. Like, basically I'm spending this summer investing in myself. There's like we were talking a little bit about kind of like some of the things I was planning on doing prior to the pandemic, which was get into the movie business. So I was thinking about this. If Canada is still crazy in the fall, which there is a very good chance Canada will still be crazy in the fall.
Crazy right? Don't go away.
Crazy don't go away. Well, I don't know. You guys seem to be like, I'm not gonna say you're gonna be out exactly, but everything's kind of just going. Like you're at the point now where
we're not enforcing anything.
No. And
the policies are there to help, but nobody is listening to it and nobody's going to enforce it. So it seems like we're not crazy because it's like, you know what? Let the train go off the rails. Let's just watch.
Yep. Well, I think there's two lines of thought. I mean, there is that, but at least you could buy underwear. I could finally buy underwear this week. Right. There are points on there's a point of having too many conductors on the train. We're still in that phase, I feel, where we have too much of that still going on. Yeah. Whereas you guys, maybe you should have a few more control levers. On the other hand, I think at this point, you're oddly the healthier choice. Right. And I'm not saying it's the right choice. What I'm saying is if you have to choose between too many conductors, right, it's going off the rails either way.
We have this odd problem right now where we have more vaccinations available than people are coming in to get, and people are choosing
that point was going to come sooner or later anyway for a couple reasons. Right. I mean,
for a couple reasons, right? This is a not so awesome reason where people are choosing not to get vaccinated versus enough people have gotten vaccinated that people don't need to.
Okay. Can we play a wonderful devil's advocate game with you for a minute here?
This is gonna happen.
Let's do devil's advocate game. We're gonna take the word vaccine out of the equation, just for the purposes of this discussion. If somebody came up to you and gave you an experimental product that hadn't been fully properly tested, right? And said, you must take this. How would you feel about that?
If that were the case by itself, it would be questionable. The alternative is you could get sick and die a very pain and slow death without it. Or somebody you love, or somebody you don't even know.
Now, here's the flip side to that, though. Now, this is, again, we're just playing fully devil's advocate here. Most of those arguments could be made for the vaccine, too. Now, we're going to put the word back in there as well. Most of those exact same arguments could actually be made, other than possibly getting other people sick. Because you have an unknown, still relatively, in at least two of the vaccines cases, completely brand new technologies.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea, because instead of the standard 2-3 year testing phase that a vaccine normally goes through, right, goes in, essentially anyone taking a shot right now is a test subject. Now, from a purely ethical point of view, that's questionable. To begin with, that is a very questionable take. Number one. Number two, even if this all goes perfectly to plan, let's just say for the sake of argument, nothing really bad happens. Is this a practice you want to encourage from big companies? Because after all, if they got away with it once, who's to say they won't do it again?
I would be interested in the data. And the data has shown, nobody's psychic, right? Let's not worry about now, right? No. The data has shown that if you take the vaccine, your chances of getting a hospitalization-worthy version of COVID go down, and your contagiousness when you have COVID is minimal. You're not passing it on to people. You may be a carrier, but you're not passing it on.
All right. But again, this is the devil's advocate. This is just strictly the devil's advocate part of this. We're not going to see any real, especially with the brand new stuff. I have a feeling like the Johnson & Johnson one, just based on the company's own reputation, I have my own guess on where that one will go. But when you're talking about Pfizer and Moderna, no one's going to know the long-term implications of this for at least another 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so if anyone is reluctant to jump in, because there is a big history of giving products prematurely to the public, from DDT all the way down the line to like stuff for birth control and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. It's questionable. This isn't an easy choice that we're facing, right? There's
both. And I'm somewhere like I said, I see both sides of the argument. This is one of those situations where I feel like, yes, you want to take proper precautions for a vaccination. You want to do what you can for your family. I get that. I totally get that. At the same token, if someone's going to be like, you know what, I want to wait a little while, I get that too. Like, this isn't one of those situations, because there is a risk with especially like brand new technology. Cutting through living tissue like this is not exactly what I call Hippocratic oath of, like, fulfilling, right? Mm-hmm. This is not a practice I feel should be encouraged. In terms of big companies skipping years of R&D mm-hmm. to release a product to the public. Mm-hmm. It's not a good practice, and to the scale we have done it with this. Right? I can't blame people for being a little worried about it. I really can't. Right?
In the perfect world, right, what you're describing, the longitudinal studies of test subjects and all these things, that would be ideal, right? With proper compensation. What we're facing is a society that's not compensating people to stay home, to be safe, so that these vaccines can be tested the right way. If we want people to be safe in that way, we got to support them. Mm-hmm. And humans are social creatures, right? We do want to get outside. So if the fact is we're going to go outside, whether there's a pandemic or not, we're going to socialize with people regardless, then the next best thing, or at least the next viable option, mm-hmm. and these are the of our actions.
Yeah, I think best is debatable, but viable.
Best is debatable. Yeah. The next viable option, the next responsible option would be to take whatever preventative action there is. If you're not going to stay at home to prevent a spread, get whatever's out there to protect yourself and others. Hopefully it does protect yourself and others. We don't quite know, but the data is showing that in the time that we've had it, it has been protective. Mm-hmm. We don't know the future, but if you're not willing to stay inside, then is it your social responsibility to get vaccinated? I don't know.
Can I play more devil's advocate with you?
I feel like we could go back and forth on
Well,
this.
we could, but I think this is the last one. This is just a thought for the future. This is a thought for the future.
All right.
So once upon a time, if a preacher had come to town and said, "You have evil inside you, and the only way out is to join this thing," sounds kind of what I think. This is going to be when we're about 2 years removed from this moment in time, going back, looking forward. I think the big mistake, I think one of the biggest problems North America in particular faces is we have a severe lack of integrity with our leadership. And because of that, the way messages and messaging has gotten across with a lot of these things, like it was an epic failure. And looking at what, and I think Canada is as bad or worse depending upon how you look at it, because, like I said, I joked about this. I couldn't buy underwear. But really think about that first. Really think about how absurd we've lived in the last year.
Toilet paper.
Beginning. The fact that I can go to a beer store here and buy beer, and I could do that the entire time. Now, don't get me wrong. Getting people a little knackered so they can actually ease the stress of going on in a pandemic. I get some of the logic to that, but let's be very honest here.
Priorities.
Yeah. Let's be really honest here, right? So I kind of like we could go back on this all night. You're absolutely correct, and I don't really want to. All I'm pointing out is, there is a lot of things. I have a theory that the past is prologue, right? And I have a theory that history has a tendency to repeat itself. And one of the things is I'm not even thinking so much about this crisis anymore. I'm thinking about the next one, because there's going to be another one down the road. It'll be something else, some kind of other weird emergency where people will find doing these weird and wacky things as acceptable behavior. And in that world, I'm going to be on a beach somewhere giving a giant finger to everybody and everything. Good luck getting me out of my spot once I'm there. Right?
Amen. Yeah. So say we all.
Yeah. No, but I feel like I got the fortitude to actually say that, and be like, the hoptics shoot you. It's like, well, then don't waste my time. Just get the fucking bullet or fuck off. Right? One or the other, right? But all I'm saying is, watching how the narrative has played out, watching how I've seen us act in this crisis. Some of these same stories I heard this time, I'm going to hear again in 20 years. Right? I'm starting to question, and for me, and just on a personal note, I just look at it kind of like, I think it's time maybe it's time we invest in either a better message or something, at the very least, a more transparent one. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. If you remember, and I'm not sure how into the U.S. politics you were at the time, and we're getting tangential here. I really do just want to actually draw.
No worries.
But the issue snowballed during the Trump administration when information was not being passed around to public health officials transparently, to the public transparently. There are protocols in place. The president had taken people who were in charge of these protocols out of office, out of their roles, and just bare skeleton crewed the whole administration.
Oh, absolutely.
So the protocols are there. You just have to empower those protocols to be put into action.
But I think it has to go one step further.
Yeah.
What I mean is, rightfully so, people do not trust their government. And a lot of that boils down to a lack of integrity and transparency. And even with this current administration, there is still, when I look at an 80-year-old man on Twitter going to the public, you're going to get this shot if you want your life back. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, this is rather an incredibly poor understanding of human psychology. Technically kind of a criminal act. I don't know coercing people into actually getting something is necessarily the way to go either. All right, some countries that's a criminal thing, probably yours too. Just saying.
Coercion, you mean?
Yeah.
Criminal?
So, but right. So all I'm saying is, North America in general has a very poor grasp. Either has a very poor grasp of human psychology, or is incredibly callous towards its people.
Huh.
And
I wonder
probably both. So what I'm saying is it would be the next one people are going to be even more disbelieving than this one. And there's lots of reasons for that. Right or wrong, there's lots of reasons for it. So I kind of look at it and go, the next one's going to be even create a bigger divide.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want to divide everybody, I mean, that's wonderful and great if that's your goal. But at the same token, even looking a year removed from this,
mm-hmm.
we could have done a lot of things better. And that's not just from the top, but just from the bottom, right? Sure. There's just a lot that could have been done that just wasn't. And again, it's easy looking backwards,
mm-hmm.
but you could also just there's going to be other crises. So yeah. we could do that stuff now so that it's not, and be transparent about the whole process. Whereas, again, you look at Japan, they're transparent. You look at Italy, they're transparent. Look at Sweden, may disagree with what they did, but they were fucking transparent. Look at New Zealand, same thing. They were fucking transparent the mm-hmm. whole time. It's much easier to get people to cooperate when people know what's up.
Yeah. Given that there's trust there. There's like a whole psychology about this. Let's
shake hands. Yeah.
Yes.
It was a wonderful
discussion.
Yeah, it was a wonderful discussion.
Yeah.
And because again, I like you, and I think you like me, and we don't want to just do a political talk all fucking night because
there are podcasts for that. This is a drink and draw.
Yes, yes, it is. It's totally. But we do go on tangents. So that all said, let's see. I'm doing Chrono Trigger tonight.
You're doing what?
Chrono Trigger.
One more time.
Chrono Trigger.
Okay, I've never heard of that.
Really?
I'm gonna Google it now.
Oh God.
Chrono
Trigger. Do you want me to send you the spelling to that bad boy?
No, I think I might have found it. Chron Trigger?
No. Here.
Okay, I guess I need the spelling, yeah.
Okay. There, look at that. See the private chat. Look that up.
Okay. Chrono. Video game.
It is a video game, yes.
Images. Oh, redhead, kind of DBZ.
Kind of.
Oh yeah, I've seen these images before.
I'm sure you have. This game is very this is my childhood. This game still holds up today. It's a good game. It's actually a really good game. Right? It's a time travel RPG.
Yeah. It's got like a Link feel to it, or Legend of Zelda.
Did you ever play Did you ever play the old Final Fantasies? Like Final Fantasy 4?
Play it.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
The older ones, not the newer ones, but the older ones.
Mm-hmm.
That it's the same company. So
okay.
this was just a fun little game they made, and it's so freaking cool. Your party is just this amazing cast of characters from across time, right? Mm-hmm. And oh man, there's so many cool. The cool thing about that game, depending on when you beat it, you get a different ending.
Oh, okay. Year-wise or within the gameplay? If you beat it in 1999 versus
no. Actually, the answer to that question is both. So each year. So each year has a mission, like a quest you have to complete.
Mm-hmm.
And to play the game, and honestly, I say this to everybody: play the game fully out the first time, because honestly, lots of cool things to do in the game. There's just tons of really cool shit you can do in that game.
Mm-hmm.
But and the traditional ending is freaking neat all on its own. Just it's one of those really neat games. But so if you beat the game once, you open up all the ways to beat the game. And you do some of them in the first playthrough, but there's one in particular you can only do when you go through a playthrough, and it's right at the very beginning of the game. You can't do it the first time you do it, but the second time, now that is the ultra hard mode of.
Oh yes,
that's the ultra hard mode version of it. But it is ridiculously. So if you beat that, you get a very special ending. If you beat it at any other point, depending on where you are in the story, you get different endings. There's one ending where everybody's still dinosaurs. There's another ending where it's like, because you go all the way back to the beginning of time. So if you beat
see.
Right, you do. If you beat the game
it's Chrono.
Yeah, because it's a chrono. Yeah, it's a time traveling. But it's a really cool game. So there's something like there are 14 endings in that game. So it's like depending on when you beat it, you get a different ending, right? And you got also lots of little choices too.
Yeah.
Right? There's one character you can choose to recruit or not. It's possible to recruit him. He's also a bonus boss if you want to choose that route. There's like these super secret hidden like dungeon stuff to give you all the ultimate weapon stuff. There's like, it's a really, like, for its time especially,
sure,
really good game. Like, it still holds up today. Other than the graphics, because graphics, the graphics are nicer, but gameplay isn't always. Sometimes the simpler gameplays are better.
There's elegance in it.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like intentional versus open world, just get lost in it. What you're saying about the multiple endings reminds me of a lot of Shadow of the Colossus. I'm not sure if you ever played that.
I have. It's a beautiful game.
Oh my god, it's so lovely. Just the graphics. But once you beat it the first time through, you can put it on extra hard level. You can get like flaming arrows. You can do all these cool things. I played it way too many times.
No, honestly, I'm not surprised you like that game. It's literally an illustrator's dream. Like, it's not. It is always it's totally an illustrator's dream game. There's another game. Another game. It's called Okami, I think.
Okay.
You're a cat, and you basically are painting the world with color. You're like, you just sold me. I'm buying a game tonight, Josh. Damn you.
And what comes up is a fox or like a wolf. A white wolf.
Yeah.
So is it a cat or is it a wolf?
It's a wolf.
Oh, okay.
It's mythical. It's mythical. It's a mythical. But yeah, you're basically using color to flesh out your world. It's a brilliant game. It is an incredibly brilliant game. But speaking of like extra modes, so my favorite quote unquote dick move in a video game was Devil May Cry 3.
I didn't play it, but I know of it.
Yeah, well, so it's in North America. They actually put in it's actually Nintendo Hard. I don't know if you know the term that Nintendo Hard means.
They're assholes.
Yeah, so they did that. So here's how dickish they are. This is how dickish they are. If you die and you get like 3 continues, then they unlock easy mode.
Damn.
Like, you dicks. Damn. You dicks.
That's so rude.
It was awesome. Then there's but the ultimate, like, if you want ultimate suicide, there's Dante Must Die mode. One hit kills you, and everything else still has their full health. Ridiculously hard.
Damn.
That's hard. Then there's another one where both everything's only got 1 hit point. And I mean everything in the game, right?
That's super easy.
No.
1 hit.
No.
Maybe
one of the levels, let me give you an example. So one of the levels, you actually get swallowed by a giant floating beast.
Uh-huh.
So you walk on the acid, you die. And it's not all of it's visible. You have to actually know where the stuff is, or you just die. This game is dickish. Like
Yeah.
deliberately dickish. You
You
try
mean
those.
it's realistic? If you were to walk on acid, you're not going very far in real life.
No, and that's fair. But when it's all in the dark and you can't see shit, you're like, okay, that's just rude. That's just rude.
That
right?
is.
Yeah, that's like no chance. Like yeah, no. So Devil May Cry 3, love the music in the game. The music is just perfect for the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that game was delivered. Like the first version, not the special edition. The first version is like, oh my god, why did you make this game so hard? Consequently, I love the Ninja Theory Devil May, like for art, purely artistic license.
Yeah.
The Ninja Theory Devil May Cry is my favorite. It's not. It's kind of the redheaded stepchild because a different game company actually built it, but their version of Dante and Virgil was so freaking cool. It was just a cool retelling of their story.
Yeah.
And it's very. It also has a certain Matrix vibe I really dug. It's got like it's got a Matrix they live. Like I'm a big proponent of both movies. I love the idea that I always love the idea that when you walk onto the street, because it's actually kind of true. You walk down the street and you see a billboard. You're seeing a lot of messages are being sent directly to your brain, and more often than not, more than you realize.
Right.
Right. So there's almost like a different level of looking at the world. There's the visible, right? There's the visible, right? Like Coca-Cola sign, right? Then there's maybe the not so visible, right? And I'm
subliminal messaging associations. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And then there's, you know, and sometimes they're really neat. Like they like sometimes there's an elegance to it. Like sometimes there's a moving company who actually have like a truck. There's the way the symbol is done. It's like a truck driving. You don't notice it right away because it's not what the sign's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But then you actually see it and you're like, that is fucking brilliant.
Like the FedEx sign.
Yeah, it's fucking brilliant, right? And it's so well done that you're like, you have to go like this because it's like, oh my god, whoever did that, like whoever was the designer, probably did not get paid enough. And I'm just being very blunt because it's amazing. And I realize how if you look at the world like that, like you actually look at the world like that, you suddenly realize that there's a lot of things we see and perceive are completely different, right, than what we think they are. And I've always been fascinated by that because really good stories often have layers in it, right? I'm working on the sequel to Alice Zero now because the award is, I'm officially an Elgin Award nominated poet. I am officially that now.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So
can I get your autograph?
You might be able to. Hey, why not? You, Shani, I heart you in a 1 hour call kind of way. Joshua.
I'm gonna sell that in 20 years.
That's right. So it's like he's adorable, weird but adorable. He was adorable, weird but adorable, and that's right. So, but the thing about that is so I accidentally I had this idea instead of doing flamingos. I had this idea of Stygian birds, like the actual Stygian birds, because Alice's opponent in my story is Jason.
Sure.
Jason of the Argonauts. So I'm putting a lot of Argonaut imagery in the story because it makes sense. But what would flamingos from Alice in Wonderland be? I thought, well, she's in the land of the dead. Stygian birds would be freaking cool. And the cool thing is they almost got like this clockwork mechanical thing to them as well. So it's like, okay. So I'm accidentally, somehow Alice's bird is named Icarus. And I wonder why, right? I wonder why I would choose that name, right? Anyone wants to look that up. But she's
very subtle.
Very, very, very. I'm almost smart. Almost. Right? What I did was I was like, okay, now I have a story of two birds. Jason, the way I did Jason is I realized something when I was reading Jason. He's not really a hero. right? If you look at how he does things, he lies, he cheats, he steals, he betrays ultimately everybody, right? His wife,
Jason from where? From your story?
Jason of the Argonauts. If you actually read the story, it's like how he actually gets his kingdom and stuff like that, right? He used, one of the cruelest parts of his story, if you really look at it, Medea gets smitten by him from Cupid's arrow, and she helps him overthrow her dad and overthrow everything. And at the very end, he dumps her. Right. At the very end, he dumps her. Yeah, so Medea is a very, very tragic story.
That's just called the friend zone. There's nothing wrong with putting somebody in the friend zone.
Yeah.
It's actually, that person to have boundaries. Yeah. No, I'm not going to kill your dad. That's a little too far.
Yeah. So my whole approach to Jason has been like, why am I a hero? And the answer I thought was really simple. It's because he wins. That's the reason why he's ultimately considered the hero, right, in a lot of the story, because he wins the final battle. Well, at least my version of history. Well, yeah, the winners write history. So he won. So therefore, and so Alice consequently is cooperating with her bird, right? And so there's like there's a little poor play of cooperation versus bullying and fear. And I suddenly now have this much more nuanced story than I thought I was going to have in the sequel, because I did not plan for the staging birds at all.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of, writing is in rewriting, right? That's where you get to put all the layers. You the first draft, you just get all your ideas out there. The second draft, you organize it. The third draft, you really start putting in some nuance and the undertones of the messages. And then if you keep going like that, you can put in Easter eggs and little...
Well, there's already, even in this is my first draft, there's already tons of little Easter eggs in here as well, because because it's fun, because I take my wonderful Alice book right here and go, it's really, really cool. It's got illustrations. My favorite stuff is, like, if you look to the side, there's all these little notes. There's these little notes from the Lewis Carroll Society about Alice. So little things like the fact that Lewis Carroll came up with 42 first, not Douglas Adams, but actually Lewis Carroll did it first. And it comes from just a throwaway line in Alice in Wonderland, of all places, actually. And it's like, okay, I can throw 42 in here. It's a nice little homage, right? And so now it's like it's a Douglas Adams thing. So no, actually, it's a Carroll thing. It really, really is a Carroll thing. It just, Douglas Adams just made it his own and did it better, because it just. But it's like, so it's just one of those things. Like, I get all these little notes, so I can go, okay, so what do I mash up in Greek that fits?
Is that like your writer's dream, that you get a little society made to you and everybody's analyzing your stuff, and there's this illustrated book?
Actually, you know what? Honest to God, you most of the time, you have some deliberation. Like, there's definitely things in my writing I deliberately throw in there just from a story structure standpoint. But the truth of the matter is, if someone sees something very profound in what I'm doing that I don't, there's a lot. Like, people get, a story isn't yours once it's out there.
Right. People take from it.
Yeah, it never is. Like that, I think that's the one thing is, I wrote it and that's me, right? That's me. It's like, I wrote that story.
Yeah.
And there is my take on how I put it together. And someone will come along. So in my contract with my illustrator, I actually gave her a choice of illustration. So one of the illustrations is completely her choice. I have a list of them, but also I told her it's in the contract. If you find something better, you can choose it, because Kenzie will have her own ideas of what works and what doesn't.
Absolutely. And as the illustrator, it might be smart to defer to her judgment.
I've learned this already. Sometimes. So I had the pleasure of working with Florence Chan.
Mm-hmm.
Florence, when I did my third book, actually took me aside and said, okay, listen, you need to actually world build here a little bit. You need to
Yeah.
actually do some stuff here, because I'm more than happy to do whatever you like. But this is good. Keep it good. Don't fuck this up. But I'm paraphrasing a little bit.
Sure.
But
contract. Don't fuck this up.
Yeah. Basically, she's like, there's things that need to logically be here for this to really work. At least a little bit.
Yeah.
To do. And no, me like never be so. Right. One of the biggest things I've learned in life in the last 12 years, or actually last 5 years, asking for help. It's actually a brilliant thing most of us don't do enough.
True that.
Yeah.
True that.
It's a brilliant thing. There's a balance. You can't have everybody do everything for you.
Sure.
But I was like, you know, it occurred to me, for example, that, you know, from the next phase in my life, I'm going to be taking, July is going to be the month I take courses in a few things, CPR level 3.
Nice.
Because that way I can get onto a movie set really easy. It's like, oh, I have the highest level CPR. You need somebody that knows this shit, right? It's actually a really good way.
Lives.
But yeah, exactly. Or I'll get paid to hand out food to people during breaks. I'm good with that too, right? Whatever. The point is, I'm getting that stuff because it's like that's a useful skill. Nonetheless, there are companies that need people with that skill level. So if I decide to work in another job, you're a level what? It's like, yeah, you can actually put me in an office and I can do paperwork and shit too. Kind of cool, right? I know. Yeah, it's just like that. Those things. So, but there's that. Drivers. I can take my drivers here. I'm going to get my drivers. I'm going to finish, I think, getting my drivers in the States. I'm also renewing my American passport. So once all this stuff's kind of taken care of,
yeah,
I'm getting myself my mystery machine, and then I start going to the next level, because again, there are things here I'm sure I can look for and explore and see and enjoy, but also at this point in my life, it's just like I was challenged. Like I said, like last time I told you, I was challenged to become the vision I see for myself.
Right.
So that seems like a good challenge. So
well, these are all steps that you're taking. The courses, the bettering yourself, making yourself an asset, you know, you're becoming the person that you want to be. This is what it looks like. It takes work, it takes time and planning and effort. You're doing it. It's not like a movie where it's just a single song montage and suddenly you're transformed.
I would love.
That would be great, though.
That would be awesome. Rocky 4, like I love the montages. In Rocky 4. Yeah, love that one. But actually, see, Rocky 4 is it is the prototypical 80s bad action movie in every level.
Before we start talking about movies and whatnot, because this is all stuff that I can do while I'm drawing.
I'm getting ready. I see. I got this. I'm looking for the image. I'm actually looking for an image to do from Chrono Trigger. I think I'm gonna do Mr. Frog Chrono Trigger.
All right.
I'm gonna start with him, and then we're gonna go from there.
Mr. Frog Chrono Trigger. See who you are.
He's such a cool character. He's such a cool character. He really, really is.
And I've been doing the Kids Book Pro course, right?
Yeah.
Very illuminating. Just listening to these guys give instruction on like their 50 plus years in the industry, right? That's more than twice my age, dude. I'm gonna glean some info on them.
How old are you, by the way, if you don't mind my asking?
I get that a lot. I'm 26.
That's not quite half your age.
I rounded down 50-ish, but you know.
Do you fear getting older?
Dude, I found a fucking white hair yesterday. It was so surreal. I haven't gotten over it.
Okay.
So you're gonna move past that.
Hold on. First off, big hug. Big hug.
It's happening so quickly.
So So look, okay, there are two ways of looking at it. Okay, there's two ways. I'm gonna flip it around because you already know the first way. Oh my God! Here's the second way. Here's the second way. I still, at 40 years old, can't grow a full beard. Okay, I did. So I want you to understand something very, very, very profound. Some things do come quicker than others. Some things maybe we won't want to see quicker than others. That's true. On the flip side, there are still going to be some things that you're going to be like, when I get older, I'll finally be able to do it. And
when I get older, I'm finally going to be able to grow a beard. That's
right. That's mine. That's one of mine. Right? That's one of mine. So I am sure, and I do occasionally get white hairs too. I mean, I don't see as much. For me, I'm looking at this. For 40 years old, I have surprisingly little gray hair, right? Surprisingly little. But that all said, I know as I get to 50, this is gonna get like salt and pepper, maybe a little thinner on top. I'm going to get older, and that's fine. I'm not the same guy, and that's not the thing. You're supposed to enjoy the process, because that's it.
I'm not ready to enjoy the process yet.
Okay. I said my how do I put this? My conversation with death a long time ago I still have issues with my vanity. I will say that. Like that will I don't think that never completely goes away. But issues like I'm at that point. It's like you're gonna go sometime. Okay. Let's not
an issue of death. That is guaranteed at birth.
Yes.
People pay to get their hair colored like mine. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. It is a vanity thing.
It's okay. It's you.
I'm not ready.
Okay. It's you and your vanity. Okay.
And it's also a time thing. It's a what am I doing thing.
No. Why
yes.
No.
It has a way of putting goals, accomplishments, all these other things into perspective of time. Yes, I will be dying. What am I doing? What am I doing? Okay. Here's my crisis. It's gone.
That is your crisis? Okay. I'll when again, I charge by the hour, but you want some good resolutions. You have to deal with your existential crisis of the fact that it's okay.
I feel lighter. This is much better. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So anyways, I was doing the Kids Book Pro course, still am, week 5, environment design. It's just about over, but we get more time to work on it next week, so it's just continuation to catch up on all our work. I've been doing Jack and the Beanstalk. It's been the last few weeks has been just about like dissecting the tone and the theme and of the story and how we can emphasize those tones, those themes, those messages visually, right? Mm-hmm. Because I've talked about this before, just like that there's letters make up sounds, which make up words, which put to a sentence bring up ideas. It's all a visual icon, right? Pictures do the same thing. Any kind of symbol that you put into your picture, that's an icon of an idea. And when you put those icons together, you can deliver the emergent property of all those ideas. They become more than the sum of their parts, right? So that's the whole idea of a design that works and functions in the story. To get to that design, you have to really understand the story and the tones and the themes and what you are intending to deliver to the audience. And that was what week 1 and week 2 was about. And then week 3 is character design, and week 4 environment, and week 5 continuation, and all these other things. So here's what I've gotten so far. I'm going to share my screen.
Yes, as we go to sharing of the screen.
Da, 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 da.
Dun, 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 dun.
So I wanted to put the story in the Arctic because that's it hasn't really been done before. I want it to be like a snowy environment where there's not much color so that I can show the color that Jack has as his character to live and pursue his life, right? He still has that energy to do better, do more with his life. So he has the color in the grand scheme of the environment. So this is the final design that I came up with Jack. He's a hare. He lives underground. He's got his dad's oversized jacket. I was wondering what happened to his dad, right? So maybe the only thing he has of his dad is this oversized jacket.
Pretty cool.
To get to this, of course, there was... oh, yeah. There are all these other thumbnails that you have to work on. Let's take that out of there. Right, so it was just about figuring out which of these shape languages work best, what kind of proportion, you know, how many heads tall will he be, how long will his legs be, his ears. I know that there's going to be an overcoat, so let's get that going on. And then eventually I settled on these 5, right? And then it turned out to be this one here. And then once that happened, had to, you know, it's about consistency. You want to be able to draw this character multiple times in multiple angles. So we're just figuring out the shapes that he has, right? He's mostly triangle everywhere. So these lines here, they represent where his eyes are and where his nose is, where his ears are, so that can just be drawn multiple times and still look like the same character. And then, of course, here's some action shots to show that I can be consistent in his design. You know, he's just cutting down the vine, the beanstalk that leads to the giant's mansion. He's stealing the harp, he's stealing the bird, he's sleeping in sadness, and maybe he likes to go swimming in the Arctic water because he's reckless like that. He's got to be reckless. He steals things.
Well, I always look at someone that grows up in those environments. That because I speak from experience. Cold does not feel like cold after a while.
Sure.
Yeah, not to everybody else. I don't think I'll ever fully get used to -40, but after living in it for about 10 years, cold is very relative to me.
Yeah. And, you know, he's adapted. He's a hare, and it's a cartoon, right? It doesn't need to make sense.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? You should give him like a bonus, like Green Bay Packers like jersey, because people will get that immediately. Him in the Arctic water, Green Bay. It's like, oh, they're crazy there anyway. So I mean, because
I guess that would hit home with a number of people who have been to Green Bay.
Yes, because it's like, oh, that's wait. What do you mean it's that cold? It is that cold. Don't kid yourself. Why is everybody else just shivering? Because that's the normal response. This
is fine. I'm fine.
That's the normal response. Whereas, but he doesn't have it. That's because he's from Green Bay, and Green Bay people can blow in the cold, and they are mocking you just a little bit because just they can handle.
It's so simple when you put it like that.
Yeah. It's like there. It's just like, again, someone used to the cold would not think of it as cold exactly. It might still be like brisk. Like, why? This is brisk. But it's like, it's a refreshing brisk. Right? Sad to say, I'm actually more used to the cold now than I am the heat.
You have adapted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Acclimated.
Yeah, I'm more used to I was more used to, yeah, because you're doesn't mean I actually still have a very high tolerance for heat, but it's not what it was when I was younger either.
Yeah, you don't enjoy it as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was younger, it was all about the heat. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing like getting charged from the sun. There is nothing like that charge. I love it. But
I don't like sweating and having mosquitoes eat my sweat.
Well.
So I will take the cold any day.
Yes. That's right. I mean, it's one of those things where we just look at it and go, that's why that is that way. It's like, yes, it is.
So yeah, there's Jack. And then here's Jack's mom. I wanted to show that the color was draining from her. so that she could give it to Jack. And of course, it's the same shtick each time, right? You just do the thumbnails, decide on which one you like. I decided on this thumbnail, and then I decided on the, trying to get the proportions right so that I can be consistent. And then some action shots to show that I'm consistent. And then there's a reference. And then decide on this is Jack's mom. And then did this. Here's the magician who's related to the giant crow, who is the giant who lives in the birdcage mansion. Here's their birdcage mansion. I wanted to show that it's made out of garbage, basically.
Nice.
But that hasn't come about yet because I haven't done the interior. But here's like plastic bags hanging as a flag in their birdcage mansion. Flossie the cow, who is just waiting to go back to being a prized cow, right? Getting her blush on still. His captive wife. I wanted the crow to be greedy in all things, and that's love too. So he doesn't even care if she loves him. He just has her captive. And then I wanted the magician to be their son, but he doesn't say that he's their son. So I made him a crow too. These are what I've been spending the last few weeks doing. Here's a piece that I did in between the homework, and now I'm working on character designs.
Yeah.
This is for my graphic novel. This is the main character, Chewie. I'm about to go through a lot of different topics really quickly, so stop me whenever.
Oh, no, we are getting into the world of Shani, so go in the world of Shani. Don't be self-conscious about it. Go for it.
So, this story kind of exists in multiple realms, right? There's like the real world, and then what I call the Zeosphere, and then the dreamscape. And I'm going to represent each world very differently so that it's obvious as the story progresses which world that they're in. But since it's from the point of view of this character, which world that they're in, I'm going to be designing the character design according to how they feel in each world. So within there's something called the design triangle. Scott McCloud coined it, right? So you have like your pictures. I'm very realistic, yay. And your words, which go into icons. So like your smiley faces. And then your abstracts, which are just like shapes that don't really mean anything. And every artist exists somewhere in this plane. They're either more photographic, or they're more iconic, or they just do words, or maybe they're just abstract. So the key for me in figuring out this character design in 3 different worlds for 3 different feelings about these worlds was to figure out where in this design triangle I could be consistent with. So this is Chewie design 1 in the Zeosphere, and was it the Zeosphere? Yeah, I guess it is the Zeosphere. And this world is kind of more dreamlike, dreamscape, so it doesn't really need to be real. I think I might have gotten that backwards, actually. I'm still working on it.
That's okay.
What's it? So, this is them in their real world. Things are darker, a little bit more serious. This is version 2 because when you first see them, they change outfits a few times. So this is them when they wake up. This is them when they go out and do stuff. And then when they leave this world and go into the Zeosphere, they're more like this character, right? So very different design styles.
Interesting. That guy doesn't look very happy.
No, they're not. No. So now my job is to take this style that you see here and apply it to this character, Cairo, who's going to be in the Fiona Staples style. She does Sega.
Yes, I love Fiona. I met her actually.
Oh my gosh, amazing. But he's going to be this dapper intellect who's kind of owly, so I'm trying to apply these owlistic features onto this guy who's on a quest for knowledge, and it's got to be in the same style as this Zeosphere, which is taken from Fiona Staples. So that's what I'm working on right now. It's the character design, and I'm going to follow the same process that I talked to y'all about with Jack and the Beanstalk, where I do the thumbnails, figure out the proportions, figure out which one I like best, and then I take it from there into line art and size references, and then finally coloring.
I got you. You want to see my first attempt at Mr. Frog? Let's go back here.
Let's see it.
First attempt at Mr. Frog from Chrono Trigger.
Dude, you have gotten so much better.
Uh-huh.
Wow, dude. That's really recognizable.
Yeah. It's not quite there. It's for me, it's about seeing the shape. Now I want color. I think for me the next step is color, because I can do a lot more. Again, in terms of the design tree, I'm more iconic than realistic. At least right now, that's where I'm at. Right. Yeah. I and words and icons go great together. I.e., comics. I think I have a career there if I really want to pursue. I think I do. Could be wrong, but I think I do. Right. It's one of those situations where it's just like if we're talking strictly from a point of view of getting awards, I've got one for my writing, I got one for my podcasting. So I got a nomination for my writing. I haven't gotten one from it yet. Maybe I don't get it. It's fine. I am nominated. Ha! Right? And then so it's like 1, 2, and so it's like, so now it's just like, okay, let's figure out, let's get better at the iconic stuff. And color, I find with icons in particular, actually adds dimension to them. Photorealistic, black and white actually can tell a very interesting story. I think one of the things with like photography has taught me is black and white's almost like piano keys. Like the black and the white can actually merge and create very interesting music in terms of what works for a story. And I think the more realistic you are, like I think less color is actually can tell really cool stories. But I think when you're not quite into the realm of real, color adds a certain dimension to it that otherwise you can still do it in black and white. Don't get me wrong. It definitely can be done. Happiness and Cyanide is a great example of black and white done very well. Yeah. Right? But I think honestly, color by and large is better. And there are exceptions to this rule. There definitely are. But I just say, like something like this. And don't get me wrong. Look at the interiors. These are quite sexy. They're very well done. Right? Ironically, the same people that made Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI also did this. So,
right. Well, it really depends on what the goal, what the story is that you're trying to tell, and there are different levels. If you've read Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics, right? That somebody will use comics to tell a story from, and if it's an aesthetic thing, then color versus black and white seems like a pretty simple conversation. But if you go deeper than that, where it's about what message do I want to show, just like I was doing with Chewie and how they perceive the 3 different worlds, the way that you depict those worlds with color, with flat color, with gradient color, with no color, that's a storytelling device, right? And the way that we have used color in the States has been more economically based than it has been story based, right? We did the primaries because that's what was afforded to the industry monetarily for resources. But if you take the money out of it and use colors to tell a story, you can have one character just one color and then another character a gradient of colors, right? And it becomes more of part of the message than just what looks cool or what you can afford.
Yeah, like some of North America's best art is commercial, and for the simple reason is because of our approach to art, we treated it more like a problem-solving deal than than what we should have done, right? What other cultures have done, which is use them for stories. So here we go. Oh, so here I'm going to send you a link, and I want you to do me a favor. Choose. Okay, not frog. Choose. I'll give it a shot. Whatever you choose.
Let's see.
From the playable character list.
Playable characters. Wow.
They said this is a cool game. What?
Let's give you a challenge.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're going to go with Robo.
Mr. Robo.
Oh, yeah. He's pretty blocky. He's really mechanized. Everything's in perspective, and that, the loincloth only reaches so far. So it's all going to need to be pretty precise to make that a recognizable drawing. So there's your challenge.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to sharing my screen.
Yeah, go back to sharing your screen now. Yeah, I figured you'd want to just see like my progress has I've noticed it's like I'm actually almost good at this.
Well, I'm really stunned that because like before they were shapes and they were kind of recognizable because the shapes they weren't like in proportion to themselves, right? Yeah. But they were there, right? And so the ingredients of that character could be put together into somebody that I could recognize. But here the shapes are relative to each other. And that's something that you only get by putting in the pencil miles, right? To get those shapes relative to each other.
Yep. Well, like I said, he is a complicated one, I will say for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, you're like, it's like, holy crap, you're better than I thought. Let's push you. I had a conversation with somebody about my 8 rules. I actually have them all in my head. I think I've said them all. I've said 7 of them. Do you want to hear the full 8 again?
Let's do it.
Rule 1, show up. Rule 2,
okay.
Do your thing, whatever that is. Do you want the PG or the not so PG version of the rules?
Oh, come on, you know me by now.
Okay, so we'll give the non-PG. Rule 1, show up. That one is always going to be the same no matter what, because it's just I love his heart. I love his wrists. His wrists are like gauntlets of evil. Rule 2, do your thing. Whatever that thing is, do it. You know what that is, whatever that is. Rule 3, do your shit, is basically what I'm saying there. Whatever that is, guys, you know what it is. Don't bullshit yourself. Just do it. You know it. Rule 3, don't quit. The cliche, yes, but of all the rules broken, it's rule 1 and rule 3. Right? They're the ones that break the most. They're the ones that are broken the most.
Show up and don't give up.
Yeah, because rule 3 is, I think, to me, is far more forgivable than rule 1. To be perfectly honest with you, because there's different reasons to walk away from something. There are just different reasons. So I can respect someone saying, I've had enough and I can't do this anymore, or I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Different priorities now.
Yeah. I mean, walking away from something is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just it's all about when you do it, not that you did it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing there. Rule 4, the rest is rain. I don't know if I've told you this one before. It's really
say it again.
The rest is rain.
The rest is rain.
So here's the thing: the paradox of success. You can do absolutely everything correctly, everything, and you can still fail. Consequently, you don't do those steps ever, well, you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
No matter what, you're guaranteed failure. So the lesson there is you gotta respect the fact that no matter, even with the best plans and strategies, it will in all likelihood go to shit. But, and I'm not saying, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. Success almost never is what you imagine it to be. Ironically, this is just a personal observation of people, but it's not that different than the person succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how we visualize it and how it actually executes is sometimes a very different thing. The rain will fall where it'll fall. That's just the bottom.
Well, what's that one saying? No strat. It's about war, right? No strategy will actually survive battle. So you can plan all you want, but until you go out there and do it, there's no way to know if you've done the right thing or to really improve.
Ironically, you need a plan.
And you do need a plan.
Yeah.
But but expect that things will change from that plan.
Oh yeah. Now, I'm gonna ask this question before I go to rule 5. Why do we if you know it's gonna go to shit? Why do we plan?
Well, okay, if you are going on a trip and you are okay with not knowing the destination, does that mean that you don't pack extra clothes or you don't pack your toilet paper, you don't pack a sleeping bag? You're okay with not knowing where you're going to go, but does that mean that you leave everything to the wind and just be as unprepared as you can be because you're okay with that? It's about taking the situation seriously.
So I almost completely agree with that answer. Almost. Almost. The only thing I will add to it is the other reason to make a plan is because the taking it seriously part is absolutely 100% true. I don't disagree with it at all. But I do think that without a plan, you can't actually visualize a destination. Even if you're not sure where you're going, right? You still need that visualization exercise to make things happen. And that's what planning is. What planning is actually about is that visualization process.
You're visualizing success.
Yes, and then you're also preparing for failure, which is maybe even more important than visualizing the success.
A failure, if you try anything, it is inevitable.
Yes, but where do you go from there, right? And sometimes just the process of the plan, not actually is enough to get you through a tough situation. Because listen, we both know God's laughing. Right? Right? So we all know God's laughing. So we'll see how it goes. As for which leads to rule 5.
Get out
of your fucking way.
Say that again.
Get out of your fucking way.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
When success does come, it will not look like what you expected. Again, ironically enough, it will be exactly you. And almost guaranteed on some level it's going to be you. You have to own that. But what you also have to realize is, how did you get here? What did you do so well that people noticed you? And furthermore, going backwards from that, right? Going backwards from that, what do you do? What are you doing that could possibly stop you from getting more success? It doesn't necessarily give you all your answers, guys. But what it does do is it gives you a reference point. And knowing what you're not good at, what can get in the way of your success, is actually part being prudent in your planning. What am I good at? This. Great. What am I not so good at? This. Also great. I know now. Right?
Right.
That's a cool thing. Rule 6. No excuses.
Not excuses, explanations, but not excuses.
No, you don't always even need to explain. It doesn't matter. Here's what matters. You own whatever happens to you. Whatever happens, you own it. When you succeed, right, you succeed, be generous. People want to praise you for it, awesome, enjoy it. But when you fail, when it doesn't go according to plan, own it. Don't fucking try to justify any of your decisions and your choices. Learn from them, accept your criticisms, and move forward. The one thing in this life, right? No one likes excuses. No one does. So don't give them any. Just know you explanations aren't always necessary either, because really, ultimately, unless it's to somebody that's funding you, that's different. But if they're not funding you, they don't really need to. They don't really need the explanation either. It's really about you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. Now, other people might have a different opinion. That's cool, but that's mine, right? So no excuses. Rule 7: be grateful, be charitable, because here's the truth: no one does it alone. No one. And what needs to be done, what you need to recognize is people go out of their way to help you. No, and more often than not, right? They never have to. They just want to. And recognizing the power and value of that, and always valuing the people you have around you, is a big thing. You might have, like I said, I sent you an audio message last month.
This is true.
Right? Because I wanted you to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I appreciate you. And that, even if whatever comes of this, whatever comes of our gatherings and things, it may not lead to anything on a business level, right? Then again, maybe it will. I don't know. I've enjoyed working with you, through you, and all that stuff so far. So, which is really, really, really cool, to get to know you as a person. But
Nice.
even if it doesn't cost me anything to be kind to you. It doesn't cost me anything to wish you well in a journey that I know is a very difficult one. You're trying to make your dreams come true, and always that's hard, right? But if you can look at yourself honestly and say to yourself that, you know what, I didn't do it alone, and I had a lot of people that helped me, even if they're only little things. You know, be thankful for them. Even the bad stuff. Sometimes the bad stuff actually teaches you the most. The author I don't talk about that really treated me bad, I'd give him a thank you, but he probably wouldn't. At this point, he'd probably be like, "Fuck you," but that's okay. I'm thankful for the experience I learned. I learned so much from that experience that, frankly, I can't help but be grateful for it. Now, which leads to rule 8: stay uncomfortable.
Yeah, the day you get comfortably stagnant is the day you stop growing.
Well, let's just say there's only one time you kind of want to stop, only one. But you gotta be very honest with yourself with it. Are you happy with where you're at? The answer is yes. Some degree of stagnation is inevitable, and that's fine. But even in that, you still gotta be aware of the fact that if you don't at least make changes to keep yourself at the level you're at, you must change, stay uncomfortable even to maintain what you have, let alone surpass. So doing all this, I'm saying, you gotta be uncomfortable enough to change, whatever that might be. And you can always
Or at
be
least
better.
don't be afraid of discomfort.
Yep, exactly. And by the way, when I'm talking discomfort, I'm not saying deliberately put yourself in a painful spot. I'm not saying I'm not that in love with pain, contrary to what anyone may tell you. But what I am saying is you got to recognize, you cannot, comfort will eventually lead to complacency. And that's okay in a small dose. And like you said, some degree of comfort's good. Hey, I don't know about you. I like hot water in the shower. I really, really do. That's a comfort
Indeed,
thing.
creature comforts.
You're right. But that all said, Would I sacrifice a hot water shower for 2 years to make $1 million? Yep, I would. But you gotta be willing to look at yourself honestly. Like when you look at the great athletes that train to become world champions, like Mike Tyson would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. That dude that dude still is somewhat of a monster even today. I wouldn't want to get in a fight with that guy. That guy put me to sleep in like 10 seconds. Right? That guy is still like a legitimate lion. Like I'm not, and that's not a knock. It's just one of those things I just look at it and go, huh. But but he got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because he thought his opponents never would. He was willing to put himself into the most uncomfortable situations to become better at what he did. And there's value in that. There's a discipline. And
yeah, it's like if you want to be extraordinary, you have to do extraordinary things. It's not given to you. That everybody has something that's given to them that doesn't make them extraordinary. Of course, everybody's like this divine human, and I see the sacredness in you, and yeah, you're extraordinary in that effect. But it's like if you've got bigger goals, you have to put in bigger effort.
Well, even if you want to go purely biblical for just a second, I don't know how religious you are, but that all said, I think you'll, even if you aren't religious, you'll, I think, appreciate this particular story. It's not really about God, it's about us. And that's this. There's a parable about gifts. Whatever gifts we have, the price of those gifts is that we use them, whatever those gifts are. And I find with most of us, we are given these wonderful blessings and opportunities to express ourselves. And sometimes we fall short. And that's okay. We're not going to use everything we're given to us. That's just what it is. You're given in abundance. But any skill we want to really develop, we must use it. It doesn't come to us. It doesn't come to us in the sense that just magically, as you so eloquently said at the very beginning of the.
I'm sorry. I have to pause right now. I have to go check and see if the ducks are getting attacked by a raccoon.
Yeah, no worries.
I will be right back.
No worries, and I'll finish this wonderful story for you.
Yeah, go for it.
So ducks are getting to talk to the raccoons. So I'm going to show everybody here watching this right now. Robo. Still working out now.
Sorry about that.
Well, there's nothing to apologize. I mean, you got ducks to worry about and evil raccoons of the apocalypse. That's totally fine. So
a bad day for a duck.
Yeah. So the story in the Bible goes like this. It's about a guy giving 5 gifts and using all 5 gifts and getting 5 more. About another guy getting 10 gifts and using all those 10 gifts and getting 10 more. And about a guy getting 1 gift and not using it. And then eventually you lose it. And it's given to someone else that will use it. And the moral of the story is really simple for those people watching and listening. Every gift you have, every talent you possess, you have this ability to use them. and it's so cool and awesome and wonderful, but you have to use them. Or you do, although I can't say you do lose them completely, you never fully lose them, but they do dull. And there are other people out there that would love what you have, and they will take the chance that you won't, and they will do what you do, and they will get where you dreamed of going, simply because they believe in it. And that, I think, is the key. Do the thing that you believe you should be doing, and do it with all your heart, soul, and mind. And although it may not look like what you imagine it, and then we get to the other side, I do promise you, good things do happen. So what do you think?
For the story, or for, am I looking at a picture?
No, in terms of the story.
I think, yes, right? Everybody has a gift, if we can call it that. You know, I get the morality behind it, of course.
Yeah.
If you're the kind of person who takes joy in a life that doesn't need to be lived with a purpose, you know, you don't, this story doesn't really apply to you, right? It's all about your priorities. But yeah, if you have a gift and you give it back to the world, if you find your bliss, right? I think that life does have a way of rewarding you for that. It's that positive feedback loop. Whether, for me, right, if I post a picture online and people are like, I really like this, I get that burst of dopamine and I want to do it again. A gift that gives back, right? Positive feedback loop. If I don't show people what I'm working on, then I create a vacuum and it might not feel as good for me, right? So it's about sharing my gift with the world so that I can feel good about who I am.
Yeah, but also it does reward you. Like, I never intended to start a podcast, never in a million years.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to write books, and here I am drawing pictures with you.
You followed yourself. You followed your passion, and your life has kind of been designed around that.
Yes.
And it's an intentional design. You can be passive in your life and just live your life for its own sake, but it might not be designed to who you are, what you do, unless, you know, your design is that you don't really care. But like what you're saying, now you have this podcast and you're talking with all these cool people and you're having all these experiences. That's a life by design, and that is its own reward.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the kind of people I am meeting now too are very different than when I started this journey. So, which is also very fascinating. I'm interviewing the writer of Harley Quinn next month, which I think is a really
sick. Congrats.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. Someone and then there's someone like, I'm talking with another author that I've actually love his books, and he's possibly coming on my show. Send him a link. So now that I can go get clothes again in my local places again.
You can buy underwear.
I have underwear, lots of underwear now. I have all of the socks too. All of the socks.
Wow. You socks finally made it.
I finally look like a civilized. I'm finally the civilized man I always dreamed of.
I'm a real boy.
That's right, or something to that effect, folks. Yeah, we live in a strangely fucked up time. So, but
2020 pandemic, anything goes.
Yeah. Like I say, it's a weird time. Like I said, it's one of those. But that all said, so the next step is to take. It occurred to me that Mr. Robo's gun looks like a giant, like, cork at the end of it. It's like a watch. He's got a watch and like a cork at the end of one of his hands. It's like,
are you showing it?
It's very shortly. Almost done. Almost done. Certainly, it's not quite as good as the other one, I think, but it's still. I think I'm okay. Are you ready?
Oh, okay. 1 second.
Here. It's not quite done, but I could be a general gist of what I did.
A little bit closer. Oh, hey. Yep, recognizable. Dude, I'm loving your progress.
Yes.
I'm so proud of you. Look at you.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Again, it's just one of those things where I just recognize the fact that I want to get into comics because those are probably the best stories I can tell. Even if you look at what I did with Alice, there, just to make him a little bit more recognizable. I just did a little bit more on top there, so you can actually see the gun and the rocket and the clock and stuff like that. Like I said,
you are mastering your shapes.
Yeah.
Look at that cylinder. Yeah. That's really like the four building blocks, right? Of anything is just your shapes, and you got your cylinder down. You got your perspective going.
Yeah. So there you go. Thank you. Like I said, and so that's not bad for about 7 months of work.
You know, just dedicated practice is its skill by itself.
Yep.
I am sharing the screen, Reno.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'd love to, if you're, I'm not sure which step you were on. You said that there were 8, right?
Oh, like 8. Last one was to stay uncomfortable, which was the final one, right?
Perfect.
So push yourself to always do things. Like I like one of the things like again for me, I know the next step for me is actual anatomy, because that's going to actually make my icons better. Even if I'm not great at anatomy right away, that doesn't matter. It's just icons, shapes, right?
Yeah, you got to know the rules to break them. At least the basic stuff of it. Absolutely. Yeah, I was in the class that I'm taking, right? We're talking about the different ways that you can break rules to show your style, right? You don't need to be the perfect artist to have a style. You just know which rules to break. And I was thinking about your progress while I was going through that video, and I was thinking like, well, you're kind of a collage guy, but with shapes.
Yeah.
Like what I was saying before, you put the ingredients together and it may not be perfect, but because the ingredients are there in relativity to each other, you know which character you're talking about.
Yep.
And yeah, exactly. This is like a pro and con, right? Because people will go to art school and learn these rules, and it's so hard for them to go backwards and find their style because they're so committed to the rules. That's the con of learning all of these cool techniques and of learning the rules. You're at this perfect sweet spot here where you aren't beholden to these rules and you can really develop into your style.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to go, like, it's how I approach my writing too. I didn't really do it with a set understanding of rules. I just understood like the stories I like to tell. Right. And that's all I really understood. Right. And even if I'm just doing horrible reverse engineering, and sometimes it is really horrible, right? Right. But the thing is that, right, you even that you learn things. And I still, like, even when I get to the point of learning proper techniques and stuff like that, I'm going to have to unlearn things too. And I know that as well, right? It's just one of those situations where you recognize the what you're doing and how you're going about it, and going, okay, so I'm learning stuff now. Some of this is going to get discarded eventually. But some of it is going to really, really work. So the trick then is to make sure that the stuff I'm doing will eventually really, really, really work. And to do that, I'm like, okay, for now, I'm just worried about having fun. The rest will take care of itself. So, and that's where I'm at. Like, it's just like, I'm not worried about the the rules yet. Now, I'm getting to the point where I'm going to have to start looking at the rules because the we're going to put your screen back up. Because the rules, right, are because eventually it comes to a point where you only have so much vocabulary that you can learn on your own, and you need to learn other vocabulary.
Yeah.
So that you can come up with your new wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm doing, right? I'm kind of just like, okay, I'm gonna learn as much as I can. I'm gonna learn as much language as I can. Develop my own nasty bad habits in the process. Yes, but in the same token, but also not beholden to anything either. Which means I'll find other tricks that other artists, like you said, that have been caught in the rules for so long, are like, I never thought about it like that. It's like, I know.
I wonder why that is. And it's like what we had said with I think it was like rule 1 or rule 2.
Yeah.
It's one of those rules. Be prepared, do some planning, know what.
Oh, that's rule 4. The rest is
rule
rain.
4. Know what success looks like. So if you know what style you want to emulate, you can get there faster just by practicing that style, right? If you don't know the kind of style that you're drawn to or that really speaks to you and that you speak through, you're going to be spending a lot of years just trying to discover it on your own and remaking the wheel. So it's worth it to go out into the world and be like, I know that I don't need to learn all the rules, but I need to learn what really speaks to me so that I can learn which rules will help me get there faster.
Like you and me both have similar goals in one sense. Like, I think I'm a pretty good young adult author. Ultimately, I think I'm good at that. Now, I could be totally off based on that, but that's the stuff I like. So screw it. I'm doing it. Now, whether it's visual, whether it's like a storytelling thing, that's fine too. Right? It's one of those situations where I'm aware. And because I'm aware, I've made the choices I've made so far. And the cool thing too is I'm also how do I put this? I'm taking a very specific path, and that really helps. I think you succeed because the more specific you are. This is something else I've learned as I've gotten older. The more specific you are, the more things happen.
The better steps you can take to reach that specificity.
Well, that too. Like it's a bit of both. Like, what happens is, okay, I want to get on the road and start doing my stuff. Okay, so what is the quickest way for me to do this? Well, the first thing is I'm going to need to get a driver's license, right? Because I don't have one of those right now. So that's the first step. Second step is then renewing my American passport. An easier step because I've already done it once. Even if it expired, that information is available because I do it through the consulate here, not necessarily through the, how do I put this? The typical American channels. So I can actually do that relatively quickly. Step 3, what skills can I add to my repertoire to make me more desirable in the fields I want to get into? All right. So it's like, well, what would be fun to do in the United States? Movies would be fun to do in the United States, right? At least on a somewhat semi-regular basis. So why not see if I can do something there? But also, while I'm quietly doing that, what's your other goal? Get into comics. Well, how do you get into comics? Well, it's a visual medium. Okay, learn to draw. Choose your style, right? Come up with a story that suits said style. Prove you can finish a project in that said style. Submit it for world to see. And keep making shit happen. But again, these are
being specific.
Yeah, it does. All does. It's true, and that's not just true with business. It's true of life in general. The more specific you are, the more you can get those things to come up out of nowhere.
The more that you can recognize them when they do show up.
Yes.
You know what you're looking for.
Yeah. So once you see it and feel it, you kind of just go with it, and you're like, damn, you know. And that's kind of how I treated this, right?
So I think we were scheduled for 2 hours. We might be coming up to that point.
But we're in the last 20. I'm for me. I'm going to be done drawing. I'm officially done drawing for now because we almost at the point of wrap up here, right?
So I would love to wrap up it by summarizing or at least figuring out which of these thumbnails are going to work for this character.
Okay.
So
which character are we doing again?
This is the Cairo character. His main a good way to figure out the right character design is to understand their backstory and their role in the story and like 4 keywords that describe them, right? So this guy's an intellectual. He's out looking for redemption. He comes from a privileged background. He's a truth seeker. He's a rescuer. So I took my inspiration for this guy from owls, right? So they kind of have this wise intellect to them, as he is. I wanted to show that he's a privileged guy, so I went with a tuxedo feel. And I kind of wanted to give a seeking vibe to him. So I'm trying to hide him behind a beard, behind lots of hair, because he's hiding something and he's seeking something. So he's not just a surface view character. He's hidden behind many layers. So with that in mind, there's also all these things about shape language, right? If you go circular, it feels safe. If you go triangular, it feels, square, it feels secure and sturdy. And if you go triangular, it feels like change, right? Or danger. So at first I was going with a mashup. I was just playing with proportions. How long do I want the legs? How big do I want his head? Do I want big arms? Do I want a square body? Do I want a normal looking guy? Since this is kind of an abstract plane where things don't need to look realistic, I can play around with the shape of the legs because this is kind of like an afterlife, right? It's not real life. So he doesn't actually need to look like a person. He can be a mix of an owl. Maybe his hair flares out into an owl-esque kind of poof. Maybe his legs start going backwards because owls and birds have that backwards knee thing. Maybe his clothes resemble a wing and his hair resembles that poof again and his beard looks like a beak. Maybe his legs emphasize that. Maybe he's got talons. Maybe his tuxedo has this tail to it, emphasizing the bird look. Maybe he's got oversized arms. So that's where I'm at right now. With everything that I've said, I'd love to hear which design appeals most to you.
You mentioned layers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna throw a couple thoughts your way, just a couple different thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Or before I make some of my own decision making on this. So is he now? He's a character. It sounds like he does take himself relatively seriously, at least a bit. He has a certain sense of self-worth, right?
Yeah.
So, but here's the question, right? Does he have the expectation of how do others perceive him? Do they perceive him as someone to take seriously? Does he make people smile? Does he make people like cringe? Does he make people roll their eyes? What does he project onto others?
People get a sense that they shouldn't trust him, that he's got ulterior motives, but he comes off as this charming guy.
Yeah, so he's kind of shifty. He kind of twists a little. He fidget. Like if he was on television, he'd be fidgeting a little bit, maybe not quite making eye contact, right? Or maybe making too much eye contact. Like one of those people that you just feel like, I can't trust you.
Not in a you're dangerous sort of way, more like you're hiding the truth from me sort of way.
Yeah, but
So
people hate that. But people hate it. That's almost like snake oil salesman. Like that's all like almost right because they do that too. It's like I don't like. There's that, or there's more to what you're telling. I'm being very specific about this because there is a reason for this. Again, we're talking about specifics here, right?
yeah, right.
So, right. So
He's not a
what
liar.
is?
He speaks in half truths.
Oh, he's the worst kind of bullshitter. Ooh, I hate that guy. So just based on that, 12's interesting because he almost has like a Gleeman traveling like carnival feel there, right? And also the fact that I mean I like the subtle he's hiding something in plain sight because he's wearing that like almost that looks like a cape there. So
Right.
12 has that this has a certain feel of there's a mystery to him. What's under the cloak, right? And hopefully there is actually something under the cloak, or he's in jail for indecent exposure a little bit later on. That so there is that. You got kind of an Animorph thing kind of going on with your story here, or am I in the right story here? Am I thinking the other, or is the other one with the Fiona Staples inspired stuff? You got two of them.
He's this world is a spirit world, right? So they're animalistic. They're anthropomorphized, but they're not animorphs.
No. Okay, so see, I almost like 8 because I like he's definitely got a bit of that trickster fox kind of vibe to him, right? There is a part of me that goes 8. I probably see me. If it was me, it would be a mashup of 8 and 12. I'd probably figure out a mashup between them because and maybe not. Okay, if I were to be very, very fair, I like this perspective on 9. It feels very, talking about angular, a sense of danger or secret. That one kind of feels that way, right?
Yeah.
But I like pieces of 12, like the piece of 12, right? I do like a piece of 12, like the fact that there's that sense of 12's hiding something, right? And that's the feeling that is the very visual. You have a very visual cue of that.
Yeah.
Right. You have a very visual cue of that. So if I were to do that, I probably would match 9 and 12. I like the idea that he's almost got like, again, a traveling gleeman, a storyteller, but maybe a slightly darker tint on that character, right? The other way you could fully go, although this is dark, maybe a little darker than what you want, is a mad court gesture style. Because jesters like court jesters can be very humor can and it'll illuminate a lot of truth as well, and it can get high behind its clever jokes, right? But based on what you got, I probably would say a mixture of 9 and 12.
I feel like 13 is a mixture of those two.
Yeah. Okay. Because I like the stance of 9. There's something about that stance. It's like there's a certain invitation about that. So I like the wide base there. But yeah like 9 and like that's why I say 9 and 12. 13's a little confused.
Well, I can put it out. Because he's got backwards knee in that one. Okay. All right. So you thank you for the feedback. I know that we're running on time.
No. Was it helpful? Did what I say make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And 1 through whatever, those are like the boring ones where you're just trying to get the typical ideas out of your mind. After the boring stuff has depleted itself, that's when you get into the interesting stuff. So I say 20 thumbnails, but really it should be like 30 interesting stuff. So I'm probably going to do a lot more thumbnails to see what comes up. So we're probably going to go with some mixture here of hidden layers, right, with this sharp undertone, and this poof, this beak-like poof.
Yeah, because again, like I said, it's because it's not just about the story. Like again, just thinking about this in layers, it's the expectations. Ultimately, storytelling is playing with people's expectations. Either you're inverting them or you're fulfilling them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's all in how you do it, though, both ways. You can't invert them. You can't be M. Night Shyamalan outside of the Sixth Sense. You can't. The Village, like, pissed me off. It really, really pissed me off. Like, terribly pissed me off. Because it just, like, I got to the end of that. It's like, you wasted my fucking time.
I did not see The Village. After he fucked up Avatar, I just gave up on all of his movies.
You knew he was going to fuck up Avatar.
Still.
You knew it.
Knew that, why did he accept the challenge?
He had kids. He wanted to do something for his kids.
It hurts my feelings. Anyways, go on.
Yeah, but I mean, that's why you do. Like, you'll take a challenge on. So, for me, I always found Sixth Sense was clever. I mean, I'm spoiling Sixth Sense. 30 years. It's nearly a 30-year-old movie, so I'm not feel bad about this. This is when Bruce Willis was still likable. But the idea that the main character was dead, and that you had to figure that out, right? Figure that out all by yourself. That in itself is a that was cool, because that fit the expectation of the story perfectly. Do you want me to spoil The Village for you?
Yeah, go for it.
So when they leave the village, that they were fearful of everything they were hearing behind them. It turned out that this village was in this isolated little spot, and they'd never seen cars and stuff. So they come out into the real world, and it's like, really, this is your secret. This thing is your secret. It's like, I wanted like you got this horror story here, and you can do amazing things with what's beyond the village, right? And maybe you can't fulfill my expectations, but god damn it,
did you really have to disappoint me so hard? Jeez.
Yeah, don't disappoint me. At least give me a shot, All right. Look, like, if we're gonna talk story time, like, last thing on expectations before we have to unfortunately wrap up, because I gotta get ready for the next part of the stream. Can't believe I'm doing this tonight. I wish it was. I wish we had more time, because I always enjoy chatting with you. You're fun.
Oh, shucks.
Existential crisis aside, there.
You had to bring that back up. All right, that's cool. Whatever.
Listen, I'm your friend. If I can't torture you a little bit,
the white hair torture.
It's okay. Listen, people bust my balls all the time, right? My significant other, when I get one, is probably going to bust my balls all the time. That's just how it works. It's just how it is, right?
My significant other will look at my gray hair and say, "Nope, that's brown." That's I don't even see that. Anyways,
you're awesome. Before we wrap up,
Before
we wrap up, a couple things. Would you like to come back next month?
Absolutely, let's do that.
All right, let's do the last little scheduling here for next month. Yeah, next month looks to be pretty freaking cool. So I can't do the 10th because I'm actually a guest on a show.
Mazel.
Yeah, but I got all the Fridays, 2, 9, 16th, 23rd, and 30th free. So if you got a day there, that's cool. Or we got any day on Saturday but the 10th.
Let's go with the 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not doing any more events this year until I'm ready to launch books. So we can go at our usual time, and I'm going to be at our usual long night of fun. Does that sound like a plan?
Yes, I'm in.
All right, done and done.
5 o'clock, but if not, we'll see.
Yeah, done and done. You are officially on this. I got really. You're in a very cool month. Like I said, the current writer of Harley Quinn's my very first guest in July, so it's going to be kind of a fun.
Damn.
Yeah. I also got some other cool people coming up too. So it's gonna be like next month looks really, really fun so far. So
well, I'm glad I could add to that.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are part of the party. That all said, for everybody watching and listening, I'm going to be shifting over to presentation mode here very, very shortly. But before I do that, Shani, who has been such a great friend, also encourager. Thank you. So which one did you like better, Frog or Robo?
You know, because I gave the challenge of Robo, I went with Robo, but I'm going to have to say Robo. You did a great job on that. Frog looked instantly recognizable.
Yeah.
So effective design work there.
Okay, well, I'm getting better at this anyway, so that's good. So for anyone who wants to hire Shani, as you can see, she's an amazing illustrator. She's doing cool character concepts and designs. And the next time we come back on the show, like whenever that is, maybe what we'll do is I think we a cool little topic, both storytelling from a writing and illustrating expectations. Because honestly, that is the heart and soul of storytelling right there. So
sure, yeah, expectations.
Yeah.
Well, expect to talk about that.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah. So we'll do that. So beyond all that, where can people find you?
Of course, theartbard.com, my domain. LinkedIn, Shani O, or the Artbard. Facebook, the Artbard Soto. Or you can reach me at Gmail at theartbard@gmail.com. And I look forward to hearing from all y'all and just shop talking or hearing what you're working on or
should be back here next month to draw with me something else. Maybe I'll try. Hopefully at that point I have color. If I have color, we'll actually try something really fun and challenging. So.
Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, ooh. Okay. Ooh. Sure. Just gonna break me next time. So it's like I'm gonna break you. And see, then all this torture I did for you now, it's like it's all back on you. It's like
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, all right. So everybody, that's it for the podcast tonight. Stay tuned as Shani is going to disappear because I am going to be doing an interview, which by the way, you are more than welcome to come stay. If you want to come to learn, you have to get off here and go to the Twitch channel to do it, twitch.tv/TwitchJoshman Anyone wants to come watch. I'm just going to do a fun little demonstration on the art of the interview and what you do and how you can actually do them well, even without questions. So,
instructional. Lots of learning.
Yes, I get to teach tonight. So until then, guys, stay inspired, keep shining in the dark, and I'll see you guys Monday with a regular stream. But for those sticking around, I got this and a podcasting one in about 3 hours. So, off to the races.
See ya.
See ya. Yeah, go here. I'll just go like this. Before you go, by the way, just remember, send me a picture.
Oh, yes. Thumbnail.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. On that note. And you can just disappear however you want to disappear. And that's it for this. And for everybody watching and listening, we're about to get to some instructional stuff today, because I am about to teach. So according to my schedule, I'm going to be how to do an interview. So that is where I'm going to be going. This is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to let people come in for a little bit here, and then I'm going to get rolling. Any questions while we're here? For anybody here, can be more than happy to do so. I will definitely answer questions. I'm just letting the conduit I'm just doing that right now, and I'm just going to give this a minute here, and then I'm just going to do the instructional video right here. And while I'm doing that, okay. Well, I'm just going to get rolling with this because I'm just doing this as a cool little thing. Welcome to Conduit, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joshua Pantolaresco. I write stuff and podcasts too. This is my podcast, Just Joshing. I come here to basically teach people how to do a proper interview. And this is what this is about. This is going to be more of an instructional thing. And this is just the quick life lessons on what I've learned interviewing people over 20 years. Before I did a podcast, I interviewed people quite a bit on basically the art of just on various blogs, columns, things of that nature. I have a plethora of interviews I've done with some many great people like Spiker Robinson, people like Kelly Armstrong, people like, people like comic creators like Ron Mars. I've had a history of doing interviews, and I've done it in a variety of different styles. And my style has evolved over a period of time to teach people how to do these things. And that's what I've been doing. So this, without further ado, is kind of a how-to interview people. So the very first thing you got to do when you interview people is you have to make sure that if you are what is the goal of the interview, whatever that is. Like, I am basically just seeing here what's going on with the con convention right now on Discord, and we're just doing our thing. So this is the how to interview people like stream. So if you're doing a very short blog, then you want to do something with more of a question and answer style because it's fast. Question and answers are great for, like, you're on the phone, you're on a bus. Hey, look, I'm going to be reading something. That is something I'm going to do and read and go with. But in the event, let's say you're doing a longer thing like I do with my podcast on a regular basis. Well, if I'm doing a podcast, the thing about that is questions don't sound organic. Like, you can do questions in like an organic setting or environment, but they have to be done in a certain way. Otherwise, if I talk to you in the form of a question, it's not real. It's just not real at all. And so you got to remember what your audience is and what the goal of the interview is. And this is very important because every interview is a story. So when I do my podcast, the big thing about that is I get a sense of who the people are that do the show. And because that's what I care about. Like, that's the goal of the podcast. You get a sense of the individual. I just interviewed Shani O. Shani's a great illustrator. She's got dreams and goals and aspirations. She is an amazing person. And, I find that getting her to talk about stuff is great. It's just absolutely great. I enjoy it very, very much. With other people, it's just like, that's my goal. Let's get a real conversation going. It can be about anything I want. I don't really care what the subject matter is. Let's have a conversation. That's what I care about. Whether it's vaccines, whether it's this or that, the other thing, I don't care. It can be about like glitter or that's my podcast. It doesn't care. Let's say you're doing something for comic book resources. Well, they're going to care about the books and the comics. They want to get the basic information down. So your story there would be very different. That's like an example of a question and answer. Like, you're going to ask a question, you're going to let the author answer or the illustrator answer, and they're going to get a very basic, general sense of concise information. Something like Rolling Stone is somewhere in the middle. It's a much more of a casual feel when you do Rolling Stone. And so when you're doing that, it's like you'll see bands with quotes, and they'll all talk about descriptions and talk a little about the music, but you want a sense of what an hour is like with that band. And every time like Rolling Stone does one of those interviews, I pop because those are the best interviews, like features out there. And that's what I want to do. Like that's kind of my goal as a freelancer, is to do those interviews for Rolling Stone. So how to interview people. So you understand your goal is probably the very first thing. The second thing is, okay, well, that's great. How do you get people to come on your show, your podcast, your article? Simplest way is to ask. So I got a really fun story. So the opportunity to interview Spider Robinson kind of came literally in my lap. I was in Vancouver, and I just caught him looking for directions to get to where he was going. And I was there, and I was like, well, he says, no, it doesn't cost me anything. So I talked to him, I asked him. He gave me his phone number, he gave me his email. We had a great conversation. But I just asked. Most people are open to being asked. And it's the simplest way to come and meet anybody. And no matter who you talk to, I don't care if it's Alice Cooper, I don't care if it's someone just getting started, I don't care if it's anyone in the middle. They're people that want to have a conversation with you. Period. That's it. Right? That's it. And treat them like that, and you'll find doors open. I'm interviewing Stephanie Phillips next month. She writes Harley Quinn. And the way I approached her was, am I cool enough to interview you? That was literally how I asked her. And she was like, the question is, are you cool enough to interview me? And that's a very, very cool thing. So ask is number one. Number two, if you don't have a direct channel access somehow, some way, which is a lot harder for people to do than others. That all said, there's management teams. There is publicity, public relations people, and a lot of them just want to get their clients interviewed anyway. So getting to know some of those people, asking them for stuff is not a big deal, because they want the exposure. They want the people to come in and do this. So that's an easy part. Probably the easiest part is getting the interview. Now the question is what to do with it. I have a lot of experience with people, so I don't do some of these steps anymore because I've done so many interviews. But one of those things is have preparation, do some research on the person. Again, my podcast is different goals. I like learning from just talking to people about what to do. And so what I've done is basically I've been I just come in, I walk, I talk, I listen, and hold on a second, guys. I'm just trying. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. There you go. And that's see if I can get some more people to show up here real quick, because otherwise this is going to be very short. But do your research on the person you're interviewing. Look at what they've done, kind of look at where they've been, and just get a sense of who they are. My advice, though, is don't be afraid to just throw the script out the door. One of my guests, is a gentleman by the name of Simon Rose. He was such an entertaining, funny guy on his own. I had this list of questions I was going to ask him. I just threw them away. Actually, that interview in particular changed my style, because what it did was it forced me to, for the first time ever, it forced me to, not do an interview without questions. And it was such a refreshing experience, because there's no question I could ask that could make Simon more entertaining than he already was. He was unapologetically himself. And that's really what an interview is about, right? You want a glimpse into that person's life and story, whatever that is, whatever the angle you're coming at it from. And it's amazing the kind of people you meet when you do that. But have some research. If you don't know the person, get an idea of what they've done. One of my favorite interviews where I did something like that, I have to interview J.M. DeMatteis, who is notoriously famous for his story, Craven's Last Hunt for Spider-Man. Right? I talked about everything else he did because he doesn't get asked that stuff as much. And I talked about Moon Shadow. I talked about his books and his career, and I was a fan of him to begin with anyway. But now I got this opportunity to really talk to him about everything. And he was such a cool guest, such a cool dude. But that one I was prepared, like super prepared, and I was able to go. But for most people, uh, I just wing it. But if you're not that comfortable interviewing people, don't. Just get a sense of who they are. Just read some stuff from them, get some information, ask questions, and then probably the most important thing about interviewing people is listening. Listening is the heart and soul of how to do an interview, because listening is very much the at first it's just polite first and foremost. You want to be able to, you have to show the person that you're engaged with them, whatever the case may be. And that's important, but also eventually they tell you what isn't said as much as what is said. No matter how quiet the person is, there are things they choose to say and there are things they don't choose to say. And the longer you do interviews, you hear a lot more what people don't say. But the real secret to that is just listening. Listen to the people you're talking to. Listen to what they say. More importantly, also what they don't say. Because what they don't say is actually maybe more telling than what they said. Much like when you read a good novel, it's not what's directly told to the reader, it's what the reader picks up on. Interviews are the same way. It's all about what's being picked up upon in an interview. Now, it can frighten people sometimes because they may not mean to say what they say, but people are ultimately, they give their game away no matter who they are, right? So, but that is that's a big secret. Ultimately, a good interview is all about how well you listen. You can go in kind of your own direction. Like, so when you're doing a podcast, one of my biggest fears is that I'm carrying the show too much. I always worry about how much I talk on a show. I know it sounds really weird, but it's true. I always worry about that. It's one of those. It's one of those things where I'm very cognizant of this. So, anyway, I just bring this up to let people know that this is what I do and this is how I do it. How to overcome nerves, as they're usually a big thing. So again, ultimately they're people. It doesn't matter if it's Robert J. Sawyer, Stephen King, Brandon Sanderson. It doesn't matter if it's Nora Roberts, Daniel Steele. They're people. Now they're gonna come with certain expectations, and maybe someone just getting started. I mentioned this in my last conversation. The certain professional level people, they will assume you're competent until you prove to them you're not. So my advice, if you're dealing with someone that's reduced to a certain degree of success, have your shit together. One of my worst experiences was my last interview with Rob Sawyer. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and I know I didn't come out of that looking very good. Wasn't really my fault, but it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter because ultimately I wasn't as prepared. Will I get another interview with Rob down the road? Maybe. I don't think he's against it, but expectations are not going to be what they were, and that's going to be, and that I'm going to have to work to get back on. So that's mine with like certain levels, but they are people, and you're going to fanboy or fangirl out some of the people you do get to talk to because they are amazing. I just interviewed an opera singer not too long ago who is also a ballerina, who is also a jazz musician. She's so good, and what a cool career and life and story. And that's the thing about interviews too. You learn is that people, doesn't matter what level they're at in terms of success, people are always interesting. Everybody's got a great little story. And the challenge you have, however you choose to do your interview, whether it's a question and answer, is what story do you want to tell? And that's ultimately the final thing I'm going to bring up here. Like I said, there's not anyone really here to ask questions, so I'm going to just wrap this up short and sweet. The art of the interview is listening first and foremost, but also recognizing the story you want to tell. in a 2-hour conversation I have a lot of things I can talk about in terms of how to make them into a story. My last interview, we talked about expectations locks. We're talking about character design. So storytelling is all about expectations. So there's that. But also interviews are all about fulfilling expectations. The expectation of a Rolling Stone interview is I want an hour of the life of the band. The expectation of an interview on, say, comicbookresources.com is I got brief question and answer, quick, fast, quick and dirty reading and information about a project. No casual conversation. A podcast like mine is just casual. A podcast like, say, Chris Van Fleet's wrestling podcast is a very specific wrestling related stuff. Or Hario Hawani of the MMA Hour, same thing. He focuses on mixed martial arts stuff. He'll go in depth with them, but it's very much about one topic and one theme. And it's true with every interview you're doing. You got to be very conscious of the story you're telling. And then that's how you find your markets for them, whether it's a podcast, whether it's magazines, whether it's, okay, what story am I trying to tell with this person? And that's big, that's huge. And the fact that you can have a conversation with these people is a very mind-blowing thing. That's the long and short of it. So to sum up really quick, figure out your audience and the time you have to do your interview. Ask. Don't be shy. Whether it's a public relations or a famous person, yeah, it's going to be kind of nerve-wracking sometimes talking to some of these people. But remember, at the end of the day, they are people too, and they all have fascinating stories, especially the ones that you're not expecting to have told in front of you. Listen. Big part of interviews is listening. It's not about the questions you ask. It's about that willingness to be open to people being able to tell these things, right? And that is entirely the secret to it. If you can master that, you can hear and you can get to the point where you can guide the interview will guide you where to go, and you have these great conversations. My favorite conversation of all time, one of my favorite conversations of all time, was with an author by the name of John Maven. So he had this book called Rage, and I asked him where the name of the book came from. It's such an obvious, like blatantly angry thing, and he tells me a story about his dad having Alzheimer's and finding out he had a brother he never knew he had for like 40 years of his life. Holy shit, I'd be pissed too. Like, wow. But that conversation ended up talking about John, who's a teacher, and he helps kids and students achieve their goals as a creative. He's such a cool dude. What a cool dude. Now in that same conversation too. It's one of my favorites. Just because I really like, I want to see what I do. That's me. That's the one I go to people like, this is what I like to do. But yeah, listen, that's really like the art of interviews is very much the art of influence. And there are some really good benefits to interviewing people too. You make friends and connections, which in this industry is huge. It's very huge. Well, we're about 20 minutes in, and no one's here. Okay. On that note, there we go. All right. I'm going to wait like a couple minutes here. If no one shows up, I am going to check out because there's no one here. And I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the stream with Shani, but also I can grab some food. So I'll be back here in literally an hour to an hour and a bit, doing podcasting, how to podcast. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do. So I'm going to wait a minute here. I'm going to get my information out. And that is, my name is Josh Pantoresco. I write stuff in podcasts too. And this was Conduit, and I want to thank the staff and organizers for getting me involved with the show. It's an experience, let me tell you. Really fun one, I think, altogether. Kind of wish I had been a little bit more in tune with this than I was, but it's here for people that want to watch and listen. I'll definitely make sure it's available. To the rest, everybody else, stay inspired, keep doing your thing, and honestly, interviews are really damn cool. And I hope people actually take the time and listen to this because there's some really good things here. So I'm just going to say good night, good luck. I love you all because no one's shown up and I've already been on here for 2 hours. No need a break. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for listening. Stay inspired. And if you want to reach me, just leave a note, ask questions. I'll happily do it. Anyways, guys, take care of yourselves.